in this. So welcome and thanks everybody for coming. And I actually expected to have another musician with me here today. I really did not intend to try to do everything. But anyway, I'm delighted that everyone's here and very happy that I at least can play the piano so that we can do that, not just piano. Today, we are talking about a journey of transformation. We're going to look at what happened with the Hebrews and the Israelites wandering around for 40 years. One time I heard another sermon about this, and it was, of course, a lady preacher. And the lady preacher said, well, it had to be because the men were leading and didn't ask for directions. I don't really think that's true, but I couldn't resist the little joke. Transformation. Actually, let me detour for a minute. One of the things that we're going to be doing over the next several weeks, that there are actually 6 little studies that I'm looking at doing. There's a couple I may combine into one Sunday, so it may end up being 4 weeks, not 6. We shall see. Okay, but today's needs to be just one. We're going to be talking about, are we there yet in transformation? Personal transformation, congregational transformation is a journey, and it takes time. It doesn't happen instantly. So we're going to be talking about what happens in those in-between spaces, those sort of dark times. And the first week, this week, is about that. Are we there yet? How come we're not there yet? How come we can't instantly be where we want to be and how we want to be and accomplishing what we want to do? The next week, we're going to be talking about a really big picnic. Right? We get there. But sometimes we doubt God's ability, and we focus on, we need this fixed, and we need this fixed, and no doubt we're going to be doing that here. But we need this, we need to have this. For me, I've got to have enough money for rent, I've got to pay for all sorts of things, all that kind of stuff. But when we focus on that, sometimes we lose our way in spiritual things. The third week, we're going to talk about stop whining and walk. You can look ahead on the little press release I sent out. It tells you what scripture that's about, John, and it's about the beggar at the pool. You know, where basically Jesus says, hey, get up, walk. You can do this. Do it. Week 4 is, well, lesson 4. You might be combining that one with this one. Limping into transformation. You know, sometimes when you're say you're going to the gym to work out, you want to get stronger and better. The first day you come home from the gym, everything hurts. Right? Everything hurts. We get a little bit bruised, kind of like Jacob wrestling with the angel. Right? We get a little bit beat up. But the other side, if we follow through with that whole program, we're stronger for it. Right? Then the last 2 lessons are more about going out to the community. These others were our own transformation and our own growth and building, right? The last 2, new life amidst the dry bones. You know, Ezekiel, right? And all those bones. The way we partner with God and transform our community. And there's no doubt that right around here we've got some transforming to do, right? And the last lesson that may combine with that one, the wind of transformation, we look at Acts and Pentecost and the power that we're given to do that transforming. So that's where we're headed with all this. So I encourage you, even though there's only, 14 or 15 of us here when we finally count the choir today, bring folks, invite them. Let's see if we can get them to partner with us in our journey. So, patience. We're going to learn about patience. How patient is God? You know, we keep saying, are we there yet? Are we done? Have we learned what we're doing? We're the answer to everything, God. You know, how come we have to go through this? How come we have to do this study? How come we can't just instantly be where we're going? How often do we want to just go back to something familiar? You know, in the beginning of our Old Testament lesson, the Hebrews were complaining about, you brought us out here, we just want to go back to Egypt. We want to have those pots of meat stew. It says flesh pots. I just think of it as a nice bowl of stew. You know, that all our meals were there. We're taken care of. So what if we were slaves? Of course, when we're there, what are we doing? We're complaining about being slaves. Right? But now we've been wandering in the desert and we're lost and we're getting hungry. You know, you're not giving us enough treats, Moses. Aaron, where's our food? They've only been on the road for 2 months. Now, granted, Egypt to Canaan is not really very far. Okay, if we look on our maps, you know, I guess today, I don't know how long it takes by car, but not all that long, right? Walking a few days. Okay, not 40 years, not 40 years. But they've only been on a journey for 2 months after having been in slavery, like forever, generations. Right? But because they're not there yet, they don't trust Moses to get them. There's the woman in the car that says, honey, why didn't you stop and get directions? You've got us lost. And we should have stopped at McDonald's, because now we're hungry. They're not trusting God to provide. They're not trusting Moses to lead and to follow God. Now, it's easy for us to look and to say, they didn't trust God. They should have trusted God. That's really easy now. Really awful. They couldn't appreciate what God was doing for them. What we have to do to learn from this is to put ourselves in this very same story. We have to admit that our judgment of the Hebrews in saying, what in the world? Why were they criticizing Moses and Aaron? Why couldn't they just follow God? What's wrong with these people? We have to look at ourselves. What would I do if I knew that the place I was going to was just over there in Pomona? Right? That's where my house is. If it wasn't going to be 104 today, I could probably walk there. Right? It's maybe 7 miles. I couldn't do that today. But that was the desert. They were doing that. How often do we look at somebody else's mistakes and say, if only they had done this, and we fail to see our own and to put ourselves in that position? Whatever our situation in our wilderness, looking back at someone else's mistakes doesn't fix us now. What fixes us now is following God and following God's lessons and following God's directions. That's what fixes us now. You know how people say when God closes a door, he opens a window. True, right? Always true. I've never found it not to be true. The problem is that sometimes we have to hang out in some kind of dark hallway way longer than we expected, a whole lot longer than we think is necessary. We want the window to be opened immediately, right now. Personal examples. I don't know what's happening with Cal State University doing the sales in the fall. Okay? This is a little sideline story. It's not in my notes. Okay? I don't know what's happening there in the fall. The reason I don't know, I'm on the music faculty and the humanities faculty, do all sorts of lectures and things and demonstrations there. Every semester I always end up with more work than I think I'm going to end up with, but I really don't know what's happening this fall. I don't have a permanent kind of contract there. Every semester it has to get renewed. So at the moment I'm actually unemployed. Okay? Now, the other part of that story is Dr. Kravchuk, who some of you have met. He's a fabulous oboe player. He played some solos with our orchestra and recitals. He has been the head of the department there. He brought me on board to the department there 4 years ago or so, and 4.5, I guess. He has left. He has taken a new job in West Virginia as the Dean of Performing Arts of I think it's Marshall University there. Guess whose contract depends upon the department head assigning me the right number of classes? I don't know what's going to happen. The door isn't closed. It's just, it's one of those swinging doors, and I don't know which way it's going to swing. So I'm looking for a window or for someone to prop that door open. And I'm not very patient about it. I'm looking for the window. And it's 50 miles. I'm looking for the window. Okay. All right. So enough of the sideline story. That's myself, and I have to wait. And I have to follow God's lead and do what I know is right in my life and with the people that I work with, and just continue. There's a person who I don't know personally. I've read his work. His name is Alan Roxburgh. He made an interesting statement about the Israelites' 40-year journey. He said the point wasn't that it took 40 years to get out of Egypt. Rather, the wilderness time was necessary because it took 40 years to get Egypt out of the Israelites. Let me say that again. The 40 years wasn't to get Israel out of Egypt. They did that as soon as they walked out the gate. Yeah. Rather, the wilderness time was necessary because it took 40 years to get Egypt out of the Israelites. This is true for every transformative experience that there is. Now, I've had a lot of experience with diets, not with a lot of success. But every once in a while I try another one. It takes several weeks for me to change my habits. Some doctors say 6 weeks, some say 3. Some say you just don't have any willpower. I say, for crying out loud, all I eat is fruit and yogurt and sometimes lean chicken without skin and fish. What is wrong? But it takes weeks to change habits. It took 40 years. There's something else that happened that took more than 40 years. Who knows what that was? Something happened 44 years ago. 44 years and a few days, more or less. Anybody know? Stonewall. The Stonewall riots in New York were 44 years ago. That was, we're not going to take it anymore. We're getting out of our Egypt. That was the queens, the drag queens in New York at the Stonewall Inn, who said, we're tired of being abused. 44 years later, not even all of this country has gotten over it, not by a long shot. But praise the Lord, the Supreme Court did something that, in my opinion, was right on. And it's the vote on the Voters Act, but DOMA and Prop 8, they did all right. 44 years. Not going to dwell on that. Hope we get some wedding business, right? But 44 years is what it took our court system to recognize what happened at Stonewall, and what else was happening all over the country as a result of that little spark. The spark for the Israelites was they get to walk out of the gates of Egypt, but then they had 40 years to travel to get to where they were going. It took 40 years to break their old identity and create a new relationship with God and each other. That's really profound. If we jumped quickly from the closed door to the open window, all that is a change of place, a change of circumstance or structure. It's not ourselves that have changed. We haven't changed our behaviors or our thinking. And that's what's necessary. Because our thinking is what gets us into the places we're at. Not just other people. Our own thinking. My thinking gets me to where I'm at. Transformation, it's not an event. You'll see things where, oh, there's an altar call, right? An altar call. Might be at one of our giant mega churches, right? You know, we're raising our hands, we're praising God, we're speaking in tongues, we're bringing people down to be saved. And I have nothing against that. I think it's exciting. But you know what? It wasn't instantaneous. Something was going on with these people that were coming down to be saved. It probably wasn't just the one little sermon or the one little call to the altar. Everything in their life, everything in my life, when I made decisions, led up to those decisions to then say, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to be. It's not instantaneous. It's not an event, it's a journey. It's an unfolding process where we make our way through. We let go of the old to make room for the new so that we are available for God's grace. His grace is transforming. If anybody's worried about the pronoun his, let me just say God's grace is transforming. But when I use that word his, I'm not ascribing a gender to God. God is waiting on that. It's just a matter of convenience. So, be prepared as we travel a transformation journey to say, are we on the right road? Shouldn't we be there by now? Is God still with us? Be prepared to be surprised by God's answers, like manna. Now, if I walked outside on my front lawn and saw a bunch of white stuff there, I probably would break it up and throw it in the trash. I wouldn't know what it was. The Israelites go, what is it? What is that? Doubt, confusion, frustration, impatience. These are all companions on the journey. And to be honest, they are welcome companions. They motivate us to keep moving and to keep asking. If we don't have any doubts, we just sit here self-satisfied, we're not going to get anywhere. Nowhere. So we need those doubts. We need to be confused so we can actually seek an answer instead of being all self-righteous and think we have all the answers. We need that confusion. We have to be willing to stay in the wilderness until we have changed the way we think about things and have given up the previous definitions of who we are and what our limits are before God can bring us into the promised land. There's no shortcut. There is no bargaining. There is only trust and perseverance. I have a really brief little group exercise we're going to do. It's very short. I just have to find my markers. Okay. Pink, red, brown.
Brown will work best.
Blue. I think I have a black one. Ha, the black one. Okay. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to write your answers on this board, which I'm going to bring over here so more of you can see it. The first question is to think of ways that we, as individuals or as a congregation, still feel like we are in Egypt. in slavery.
Okay. How are we still in Egypt? We're on a long journey still. Okay. What are the things about Egypt?
Well, we think of when we were a much bigger congregation, we're dwelling in that past. What we were in the past.
Exactly. That's where a lot of our minds are, right? How else are we in Egypt? You're born in Egypt.
Yeah.
Yay, Jimmy!
Leave it to me, too, huh?
How else? Yeah, you were going to say something, weren't you? That's a perfect idea.
We don't mind.
You know, that's a good question. I'm wearing black jeans, but dress shoes, and a fairly decent top. But I'm not dressed up like I used to be. In fact, I left a mainline denominational church when I was 12, 13, because of the fashion show. I absolutely hated it. For one thing, I can't wear nylons. Even if I wanted to dress up in a dress and be all frilly, which you'll never see me do, okay? But even if I wanted to do that, I couldn't wear the nylons. I'd break out in hives. All right?
Anybody is.
Yeah, you know, so I wanted to wear my cotton slacks or jeans. You know, it was just, that was not acceptable at that particular, it was a Methodist church, and I have nothing against Methodist churches, you know, but that wasn't acceptable. So, yeah, you still dress up, but you look lovely, and we like seeing you dressed up.
The difference is that you dress up because you want to. It isn't that everybody has to dress up, and you don't leave because the rest of the people aren't dressed up. It's an open decision.
Yeah, exactly. It's open. You can come to Bethel in shorts. Wayne sang in the choir this morning wearing shorts to church.
Probably the first time in my life I've worn shorts to church.
It's hot. Why not? Okay?
Well, about still being in Egypt, there was a pattern we knew what to expect, what was expected of us, and it's different from
I'm just writing patterns because I'm running out of room. But yes, we had everything set. This is how we do it. And one thing we don't usually do is have your minister of music play the piano, lead the hymns, lead the choir, and then come down and give you a sermon. That's all right. I like doing it. but that wouldn't have been normal 20 years ago. Donna Sells.
Well, in Egypt, the Israelites worshipped idols. And in a way, they put idols above God. And in a way, we still do that today.
Even here, right?
Yeah, still do that.
Even here. We have our idols.
Going to a baseball game instead of coming to church. I can't go to church today because this is a priority. So that's an idol.
Right. So we have our idols. We're still in Egypt with our idols. Okay? Lots of other stuff. You're going to think on that this week. Okay? What are we doing as a church, as a congregation, or even as individuals within our congregation moving into the wilderness. What are we doing? What about us right now? And don't be afraid to say what you think it is.
I think we're realizing that we're not a large congregation and having to learn that we're not.
Okay. What else? It's true, we don't often sing old-fashioned hymns. Actually, our last hymn today is pretty familiar. Let's see.
Yeah, some of the, again on the hymns, the tunes, you know, in our hymn, the tunes can be the same, the words are different. And, if you, and I know you can't read the words easily, but some of the new words are really well said.
So we have some combo hymns. Old familiar tunes, new unfamiliar but thought-provoking and well thought out words. There's some we sing only once in a while in the garden. You know, we love that. So we sing that.
I think we've also learned to modify our language. I can remember when Jay Lemke was still here, and we talked about using the non-gender language, and it was voted down. In fact, that was one of the things that hurt Jay Lemke a lot, is that his congregation wasn't open to that, and we have learned to do that now.
So these are all unfamiliar things. How else are we in the wilderness?
Kind of audience participation.
Right? Discussion sermons, right? We're running out of room, and we've got something big we haven't talked about.
Well, we don't know, we might have different roles than what we used to in the past.
New roles, and Donna says.
I think we're going on faith and trust. You know, that we have to have the faith that God is going to be with us on this journey and see us through to the end and get us to the other side.
Elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. I understand you're trying to be nice. All right?
Well, without the pastor.
We're without a pastor right now. Okay? Pastor Jay is not with us as our pastor any longer. We are praying for Pastor Jay, for his health, his emotional well-being, and that he finds the right path for his life. We are praying for us, that we get through our wilderness of this and come out the other side strong and healthy, growing, and with good leadership. Right? All right, so that, I'm just going to put Pastor over here beside us, because I've run out of room. All right? We're in a wilderness.
You're unsettled. You're unsettled.
We are unsettled. Yes, that is a perfect expression. Does that mean we should be settled tomorrow? No.
I think we really have to redefine ourselves without Jay for a while before we can be open to accepting somebody else.
Yes. We have to redefine ourselves. We have to learn some things. We have to go through some of those doubts, those confusions. And we have to learn our new roles, as Clara was saying. Some of us are now doing some things we hadn't been doing so much before. Great. Let's keep doing that. Are you going to?
Well, I was just going to say that for some of us that have history here, this isn't the first time. It's just always difficult after you've had another your pattern going and you've gotten complacent somewhat with that. But we have gone through, I mean, many of us, the church has been here much longer than any of us, but some of us have been here much longer than any one of us. So I mean,
But I think
it's just a new part of the wilderness.
I think the difference this time, though, is both of all the other times we've had a change in pastor, we've had them saying goodbye and slowly leading us into that goodbye.
This is
And
more
this
so.
has been much more dramatic and difficult.
Yes.
Yes. So, we're not there yet. And this sermon today doesn't get us there. What this sermon today does is tell us we have a lot of work to do. We have a huge wilderness to cross. We have some trust, some study. And I'm going to try in this series to give us some tools to do this. Now, I want you to take a look in your bulletin and find a little bitty piece of paper. Oh, and Carol, I have a big piece of paper for you. The good thing about being small is that I can remember to try to make something with large print for Carol. I hope it's big enough, Carol. If not, maybe a magnifying glass at home. But this little slip of paper is for you to take home and stick on your refrigerator or your bulletin board or your nightstand, wherever. And it reminds us about some of the things we've talked about today, and it gives us a prayer practice. Now, I know that in this church, at least since I've been here, no one has said to you, go home and pray this prayer every day. I'm going to say that to you. Now, if you want to change your words a little bit to be more comfortable for you, that's perfectly fine, right? But take this home, and every morning and every evening, get into the habit of saying a little prayer. And hopefully some of it will be like this. Let's say this together, the part at the bottom that starts with the word God. Ready? Here we go. God, help me to be patient and trust. Help me to make friends with the wilderness, to let go of the destination and just appreciate the journey. Okay? It's a simple little thing, but it might help us. And it may help us as we work through these next several weeks. A little later in the service, as we're doing the benediction, we have a little closing litany, and I'm going to have something distributed to all of you that will also be another reminder. But we'll talk about that then. Right now, just a closing sentence. We're on a journey. We are transforming. And no, we're not there yet.